Hi, I'm Bruce. If you didn't already know that, you probably found your way here by accident. This is just my weekly update to bring friends and family up to date with what I'm doing during my retirement here in Indonesia. This week's going to be a fairly short report. I think it's already, Tuesday. Nothing much has happened other than yesterday. I had a very unpleasant experience. I used to be prone to a thing called laryngeal spasm. It's where something upsets your larynx and it clamps down like a cramp. And that's not good because that basically cuts off your air supply entirely. You're not going to breathe until that relaxes. And sometimes it doesn't want to relax. I used to get this years ago, periodically. It wasn't something that happened very often, like it might happen twice in 3 years or whatever. There's one occasion where I had the flu and it happened twice in one night. I thought, stuff this for a lark. So I went and sat in my doctor's car park until he opened in the morning, and he drove in, saw me there and did a bit of double take. And anyway, I explained to him what was going on. He said, "Oh yeah, I know about that." One of his receptionists, her son had it, and he said that it almost scared her to death, seeing her son go through this. And I could tell you that this is one of the reasons why I was not married younger, because I thought, no, I couldn't put somebody through watching me go through this. It's basically like watching somebody suffocate to death. Absolutely nothing you can do, but my doctor told me it's not going to kill you, because the muscles require oxygen to function. So of course you've cut off your air intake, which means the oxygen levels in the blood are going down further and further and further. Sooner or later that has to relax. You might have just about passed out by then, but it has to relax. And yeah, so I used to have that periodically, and that's actually why also my bed, I raised the head of it so that my bed is on about a 10-degree tilt. That's because one of the causes of this laryngeal spasm is acid coming back up from your stomach and hitting the larynx. The larynx says, "Well, don't like that," and shuts down. So the idea of putting the bed on a slope was so that the acid had to travel uphill, and I wasn't going to do that as much. The doctor told me that yes, this does get less common as you grow older because your muscles become weaker. So okay, that's one benefit of getting older, I guess. And after I had the gastric lap band installed, it became much less likely, because what that does is it divides the stomach in two portions. The upper portion where the food goes in and sits in a sort of narrow restriction, and then the lower part where all the acid and bile is. So the acid and bile generally doesn't make it back up to the larynx. So that was good. So I hadn't had it for quite some time, and I think in our 13 years of marriage almost, Jabida has seen me experience this twice, and it's twice too often, because she was having a good panic yesterday and there's absolutely nothing she could do to help. But eventually what happens is your larynx relaxes a bit and you go and you sort of get the almost like agonal breathing, and you slowly get a bit of oxygen back in. But it's very distressing in the meantime. The other thing the GP told me when we were talking about this was that, yeah, the official advice is if you relax, it eases up sooner. And he said, yeah, I don't know how you're supposed to relax when you're suffocating either. So yeah, that's not very useful advice. But for years I was on Losec, which is a tablet you take before going to bed to reduce the acid level in your stomach, so it's less likely to hit me. And that's about the only thing you can do. Yeah, so yesterday's event was caused by some bad fruit. I think I was just about to throw up, and I didn't quite throw up, it sort of coughed a bit and got a bit of the bad fruit on the larynx, and it said, right, that's it, I'm shutting down. So Jabita was having a bit of a panic here as I was trying to wave her off. So no. Slapping me on the back isn't going to help. I couldn't talk to her. And of course, she's asking what's wrong with you. You can't talk because everything's shut down. So I was just waving it back, and eventually it came good. But it comes good slowly. And meanwhile, there's sort of the whooping noises and what have you. So my sisters-in-law were hearing it from next door, basically. So they were probably a bit concerned about what was going on. And that was my concern back in Australia, was that I thought, geez, I hope I'm not scaring the neighbours. They think there's a murder going on next door. But yeah, so that, it's pretty distressing at the time, but I'm over it now. I think it's probably not going to happen again soon, I hope. I'll avoid the bad fruit. Yeah, so that was yesterday's excitement. I can live without that. But as my GP said, it's probably not going to kill me because it's self-correcting. The oxygen gets cut off, muscle has to relax. But anyway, yeah, so it's going to be a short report this week. Looks like the ice dryer is in operation. You can see the heat shimmer on the paint of the door over there. So there's a fire burning in there, and the diesel engine driving the fans running. And the ventilated deck is full of rice. So it's what, about 30 centimetres or thereabouts. And I noticed I have a tremor. That big 6-cylinder diesel driving the fan is not as noisy as the single cylinder 23 horsepower diesel that drives the rice polisher. It is Friday morning, so I figure I probably should wrap up this week's video. Can't quite say they've done nothing about the stack at the back here. I think they've maybe dragged it off this direction a bit to, well, you can see by the rake up on top there. So yeah, it's still going. The batch of rice that was on here has obviously been sufficiently dried and bagged up again. They seem to have quite an accumulation of wood here for the next heating cycle. It's almost a drought at the moment because we haven't had much rain for the last few weeks. It was just that couple of millimetres last week, so it's starting to get a bit dry around here. There's still a lot of water in the tanks here at the shed. You can see a big wasp there having a bit of a drink. Ideally what we could do is empty this back one here and then seal all of the joints between the tiles to stop the water coming out through the walls. But I don't know if it's going to get lowered that much or not. Anyway, that's enough video for this week. I can't tell whether that's hazy or whether I'm developing a cataract in my right eye. But yeah, apart from Monday's horror, it's been a fairly uneventful week.